The Aeldari, also known as the Eldar, are an ancient Xenos race which once ruled over a significant portion of the galaxy, but now teeters upon the brink of extinction. Physically, the Aeldari sport an appearance that can be considered somewhat similar to that of humans, although the Xenos are themselves known to be taller and more lightly built than the average human, with sharp, angular features, almond-shaped eyes, and pointed, elf-like ears. While such superficial similarities may allow an Aeldari to pass themselves off as human at first glance, providing that they keep a low profile and their more alien features hidden from sight, upon closer inspection it becomes clear that a vast number of additional and more extreme physiological differences exist between the two species. In addition to the previously established differences in height and build, the Aeldari boast both a skeletal and muscular structure that demonstrates an incredible degree of elasticity, which helps allow the species to move with remarkable speed and grace, as well as a bony structure analogous to a secondary rib cage located within their abdominal cavity, granting an extra layer of protection to their internal organs. In addition, members of the species are known to demonstrate extraordinarily long lifespans, with some individuals, such as the Farseer Eldrad Ulthran, being known to live for over 10,000 years. As well as this, the Aeldari sport both an incredibly advanced cardiovascular and neurological system, granting the species incredible stamina as well as heightened reflexes when compared to a typical human. The species is also known to be highly psychic, with all Aeldari, save for those individuals known as Drukhari, demonstrating an incredibly high psychic potential. However, the Aeldari are also known to be far more sensitive when it comes to emotional sensations, experiencing them with a far greater intensity than most other sentient species. As a result, many Aeldari, particularly those from the craft worlds, are known to exercise restraint and even practice meditation in order to prevent themselves from being consumed by their passions, although some, such as the aforementioned Drukhari and the more primitive Exodites, are known to be more open and accepting of their emotions. Upon the craft worlds, the Aeldari will live highly disciplined lives, where individuals will spend decades or even centuries mastering a specific discipline or path, such as the path of the warrior or the path of the seer, so that they do not succumb to their wanton desires. Some Aeldari may even choose to abandon the rigid and austere lifestyles of the craft worlds, choosing to become outcasts or corsairs, so that they can enjoy a greater degree of mental and emotional freedom. While only a few physical similarities may exist between the Aeldari and humanity, some have nonetheless suggested that this superficial resemblance is proof enough that the two species are in fact descended from a common ancestor, and as a result may even be genetically compatible to some extent. So is it possible for humans and Aeldari to interbreed and produce viable hybridized offspring? Initially, such an idea would appear to be utterly impossible due to the simple fact that humans and Aeldari are vastly different species despite sharing a number of visual similarities. In addition to the myriad of differences mentioned earlier, the genetic structure of the Aeldari is also far more complex than that of humans. While humans sport a double helix DNA structure, the Aeldari genome by contrast boasts a quintuple helix, as well as 20 chemical base pairs as opposed to the 4 that are found within humans. Despite this apparent genetic incompatibility, at least one confirmed Aeldari human hybrid was known to exist. As detailed within the novel The Buried Dagger, a man named Aelwyntor, who served as a confidant of Malcador the Sigillite, would be revealed to be, much to his own surprise, none other than such a hybrid. However, Wintor's hybridization was not the natural byproduct of interbreeding between humans and Aeldari, but was in fact the result of genetic engineering, as Wintor had been repeatedly cloned and gene-spliced from the remains of a dying Aeldari that had been found within the webway by Imperial forces. It would later be revealed that each successive clone of Wintor that was created would degenerate into insanity with ever-increasing rapidity, which would typically result in these hybrid clones taking their own lives. The final documented clone of Wintor would last be seen prior to the Siege of Terra, utilizing his blood to unlock a webway gate which would allow the founding members of the Grey Knights chapter of the Adeptus Astartes to travel to the moon of Titan in order to begin their long isolation. Another individual who was heavily suspected of being a hybrid was the self-proclaimed Corsair Queen known as Kaja Salombar. As detailed within the novel The Chapter's Due, Salombar not only sported a number of physical features that are commonly associated with the Aeldari, such as a slender frame and almond-shaped eyes, but her very movements were shown to display an almost unnatural degree of grace, leading to a number of individuals, such as the Iron Warrior Honsu, to suspect that the Corsair Queen was in fact an Aeldari hybrid, as shown with the following passage.
Kaja Salombar sketched him a roguish salute, her wild blue hair swirling around her thin features. Honshu supposed that she was beautiful, with pale skin and warm, almond-shaped eyes of striking violet. There were some who said there was Eldar blood in her veins, and Honshu would be hard-pressed to disagree. Her tall, slender frame and inhuman grace certainly suggested an affinity with that ancient race. Clad in brightly coloured fabrics that rippled in an unseen breeze, and armoured with strips of lacquered leather, she cut a fearsome figure, and her lips eased apart in a smile that was at once repellent and alluring.
Salombar was also shown to demonstrate incredible reflexes and agility, allowing her to hold her own in battle against warriors from the Ultramarines chapter of the Adeptus Astartes. Not only was the Corsair Queen able to skillfully dodge and riposte the attacks made by Cato Sicarius, who is arguably the greatest swordsman of his entire chapter, but Salombar would even succeed in running her sword through his primary heart, although Salombar would ultimately be slain after being restrained and impaled with a banner pole. Because of her remarkable physical abilities, it seems highly likely that Kaja Salombar is indeed a hybrid, although whether she was naturally conceived or artificially created is an altogether different matter. While commonly regarded as being a genetic impossibility, some individuals still maintain that interbreeding between the two species can produce viable offspring. Within the novel Warrior Coven, Inquisitor Herod of the Ordo Xenos would claim that he himself had sired one such hybrid child. However, the veracity of Herod's claims are questionable at best, due to the fact that by the time he had penned his confessions, it was clear that the Inquisitor had gone utterly insane, as shown with the following passage.
The confession, which was now over 500 years old, had been used as a case study during her training as an interrogator. It contained the last, garbled words of an old Inquisitor Lord of the Ordo Xenos. He had confessed to everything. He even confessed to a range of heresies that the interrogators had known nothing about. Before the end, he had also confessed to being a Tau elemental and having fathered a half-breed child with an Eldar female.
What further makes the idea of humans and Aeldari naturally producing hybrid offspring somewhat unlikely, in addition to the previously mentioned genetic differences, is due to how the Aeldari themselves reproduce. As detailed within the book Xenology, while the Aeldari are shown to have genitalia that are outwardly analogous to that of humans, those sported by the Aeldari appear to have corresponding organs that are designed for progressive gamete delivery, suggesting that the Xenos reproduce in multiple stages. In this case, it is suspected that males will supply a pregnant female with additional genetic material during the course of the pregnancy by engaging in successive acts of mating. As such, this would imply that in order for a viable hybrid offspring to be produced, assuming that the two species are indeed biologically compatible with one another, a male Aeldari would need to mate multiple times with a human female in order to provide the gestating fetus with enough genetic material for it to develop correctly. However, given that we know next to nothing in regards to the biology of female Aeldari, we have no way of knowing as to whether they could theoretically produce a hybrid child with a human male through a singular act of mating, or not. In either case, should a hybrid child be born naturally, then they will most likely become ostracized by both humans and Aeldari alike. Given the Imperium's highly xenophobic nature, if a hybrid child was born to a human mother, then such offspring would more than likely be regarded with mild disgust at best, or utter revulsion and horror at worst, with the latter reaction likely resulting in the half-breed child being destroyed due to it being seen as polluting the human gene pool. Conversely, the Aeldari parent, depending upon which sect in particular that they belong to, would likely look down upon such a hybrid with pity or disdain due to the child not being a pure-blooded Aeldari. While it still seems unlikely for natural hybridization to occur, there is one place within the galaxy where such a possibility could take place: Commorragh, the realm of the Drukhari. The Drukhari are themselves noted to be the most perverse, twisted, and sadistic of the various Aeldari sects, famed and feared for their acts of piracy, as well as taking great pleasure in the enslavement and torture of other, lesser races. The individuals known as the Homunculi, who are themselves an amalgamation of mad scientist, interrogator, and artist, are noted for being experts in the art of genetic engineering, using their skills to not only inflict pain and suffering onto unwilling test subjects, but also grant other members of Drukhari society various biological enhancements, regardless as to whether such upgrades serve a practical purpose or are purely cosmetic in nature. For example, the beings known as Scourges will undergo extensive genetic alteration to hollow out their bones, implant additional bands of muscle and adrenal glands, and graft large avian or chiropteran wings to their torso in order to grant them the ability of flight, with some individuals even going as far as to have large raptorial talons in the place of feet, or even have their very skulls altered and shaped into a more bird-like appearance. As such, it wouldn't be entirely unreasonable to assume that a homunculus may alter the DNA of a number of different test subjects, human and Aeldari alike, in order to make them genetically compatible with one another, if only just to see what could happen through such an unintended biological union. Perhaps the homunculi simply wish to see what unintended detrimental side effects the offspring could cause its mother during the gestation process, in order to determine if such knowledge could be used to create new and horrific forms of torture. Alternatively, perhaps an individual that had been genetically modified in such a way to bear or sire a hybrid child had been engineered for the sole purpose of payment. Within the depths of Commorragh, there exists a district named Sec Megra, or as it is more commonly known to those who inhabit it, Void Town. Void Town itself, which is little more than a nation-sized shantytown, is home to countless Drukhari gangs, assassins, as well as mercenaries from a variety of different Xenos races, such as the Silith, who are more than willing to sell their services to the highest bidder. Indeed, many Archons willingly hire mercenaries to serve as bodyguards or agents to enforce their will, if only due to the fact that such warriors are inherently more trustworthy than the average Drukhari. With this in mind, it's not entirely unreasonable to assume that a particularly cunning or powerful human mercenary that plied their trade within Void Town could have received, as payment for their services, a Drukhari slave that had been genetically engineered to carry or sire a hybrid child. Such a prize would no doubt prove tempting to many indeed. Perhaps Kaja Salambar herself had been conceived in such a manner, the daughter of a human pirate and Drukhari slave who would grow to in time inherit her progenitor's warband, or perhaps had even instigated a bloody coup in order to seize power for herself. In either case, the Imperium of Man would no doubt wish to purge such hybrid creatures from the galaxy in order to prevent the human gene pool from being further diluted and corrupted. What do you think? Leave a comment below, and thanks for watching.